So I think we're all here. All right, can everybody hear me? Yes, okay, great. Well, welcome. So I'm gonna give maybe another 30 seconds for more people to join us, and then we will get started. Okay. So welcome again. Our first task is going to be just to do a quick introduction. So maybe I'll go around where my screen is. So I'll have Taran. I know we spoke already, but I'm not sure if other people might have come in a little bit late. So maybe a quick introduction. After Taran, I'll go with Vanessa, Ayana, Beverly, and end with Keisha. And then I'll end too. So Taran, do you want to start with a quick introduction, please?
Sure. Taran, principal of Howe Elementary School, located on Chicago's West Side.
Vanessa?
Sorry, the muting. Hi, I'm Vanessa Fry. I am a doctoral candidate for cohort 18, the Urban Education Leadership Program, and I am beginning my resident principal program at CLC beginning August. So I'm very excited to be here and get some information.
Ayana?
Hi, I'm a summer intern at the UIC EDD program, so I'm just here observing and taking notes.
Thank you, Ayana. Beverly? Beverly there. We'll jump and speak to Keisha, and hopefully Beverly will join us. Keisha, do you mind going, please?
Not at all. I'm Keisha Jackson-Muir, principal of Braddock Elementary School in Fairfax County, Virginia.
Great. Welcome. Beverly, are you here? Okay, well, we'll just start. Hopefully Beverly joins us. So really the whole point of these breakout groups is to really reflect and think about what we learned from the discussion, maybe some thoughts, reactions, if you have any that you'd be willing to share.
There were so many. I mean, I was, I felt like I was that one that couldn't stop typing notes and I kept hearing advice. One of the things I didn't even consider was one of the parents mentioned the idea of them receiving training and having their own heads up or workshops of what they might need as far as using the technology or getting used to certain things that are happening. Previously as a teacher, I've done that before, but I didn't stop to think how that might help parents in different ways. And I think that could be very useful when it comes to the teacher load, trying to balance supporting the needs of the families, but at the same time having their own families. One of the questions I think that came up for me was the idea of how to balance. So I think about how we have the teachers are also going through their circumstances at home, and they have their own technological experiences. Some are very familiar, some are not, some have, more children than others at home and those things. And then you think about the family side, how they also have their own special needs. So I'm trying to see how I, as a future school leader, can best support and balance both, knowing that, you have certain teachers who are at different expertise levels, and you also have families with different needs. So how to balance both sides without that anxiety increasing for both of them.
Great. Anybody else want to add to that?
I can respond to Vanessa, and congratulations, cohort 18. Okay, I see you. All right. I think the balance that we utilize, we utilize people. We utilize those assets here. So as you enter in your residency, just know that you can't do it all on your own, but it's important to identify what's available within your network. So depending on what network you have, in your school, you have a pack, but then you have an overall network pack too that supports your network. So really taking the information that you receive from parents in regards to what support they may need and give that to your network lead, their pack, to kind of tailor some type of experience for parents. So my pack is located inside of Michelle Clark. So any glowing parent concerns or issues, I kind of send that to them, and then they kind of lead the work in engaging the parents in their work. And when it comes to teachers, teachers have to maintain office hours, but we also utilize our office clerks to handle some of the issues here too as well that we may face. So I would just say leverage all of the supports within your network.
Hi, this is Keisha, and I would like to add to that. I think the most important thing that I got from here is recognizing that our families are doing the best that they can with what they have. And here at Braddock, we have a model where we have a triangle. We have the students on the top of the triangle. We have our staff to the left of the triangle, and we have our community to the right of the triangle. It's a holistic approach when our students and our families enter our Braddock family. And it's not just about the academics, but it's about holistically supporting the child with the social, emotional, and the wellness. In addition to that, and I'm sure Taran can speak to this as a principal, we have limited funds in regards to what we can do to support that holistic approach. So that's where the community comes into play. So the one thing that we've done at Braddock is we have really tapped into our community resources. So not only do we have our business partners, we also have our faith-based partners. And you know, there's a separation between state and school, which has been a big thing. But Braddock is the type of school, and I'm the leader that doesn't believe in no. And I understand that there's one thing that the educational system can't provide our families, and that's hope. The faith-based community can definitely provide the hope, and they can do a lot of things that we can't do. So we're able to pay their rent. We're able to purchase food and get them the food cards. We're able to get gas cards. We're able to get gift cards. We're able to get those resources, those basic needs, because the bottom line is this: children are not able to access the dynamic learning that we may have if they're hungry, or if they're cold, or if they're hot, or if their families are facing eviction. So with that said, it is really, truly important to really look at those community resources and see what they can do to support the child. Because remember, the child has to go back home. And our only goal for our families is that they send their children to school every day. That is the one thing that I really push for my families. We'll take care of everything else, but we need for you to bring your kids to school every day on time. And we will do the best that we can to support them. The other piece that's really critical is the communication piece. And because we are 81% poverty, and because we have a 79% Hispanic population that speaks Spanish, and mind you, Spanish, there's dialects within Spanish, so that's also problematic. It is really important that as a school system, when we send out communications, and this is really critical during distant learning time, because our families have received communications that they don't understand. And even though they've been translated in Spanish, that direct translation is problematic because several of our families have a third grade education or no education. And so what we have to then do is take the translation that we get from our county, we have to tweak it, and we have to modify it using simpler language. And then we put a lot of visuals and processes in there step by step. And I can't remember who spoke about the internet access piece and understanding the process of technology and the walkthrough and the step through of click here, do this, then go here, wait for this screen. It is definitely overwhelming for our families. So as we go into this new normal of virtual learning, we have to really slow down, and we have to take it step by step so that our families can keep up with us versus leaving them behind.
Thank you, Keisha. So what I was writing down some notes, which is why you saw me looking down. So I want to reiterate kind of what I heard. So I want to make sure that I'm listening properly when I kind of give a little report. So I found 3 themes. One is providing parent training. Oh, it's Beverly here.
I had audio problems.
Perfect. Beverly, welcome. Do you want to do a quick introduction? Then we're just going around saying something that stood out or a reaction to something that somebody said here or at the panel.
No, I'm first of all, I'm a leadership coach at UIC, so I'm familiar with everybody in the room, except I don't recall having met Vanessa. I had contact with her yet, but Ayana and Taran, I have been Taran's coach for 3 years now. Taran, yes, all right, yeah, 3 very long years. So at this point, you know, I came in on the part of the conference when Steve was kind of ending up with some asking people for some last minute comments. And the one thing that stood out for me is that whole piece on communication and not waiting till the bitter end to develop a plan. It's best to have multiple iterations. You don't know what's going to happen, but really planning out and letting people know, letting your community know that you're thinking this through with them and you understand, and maybe drawing up a few iterations of what that might look like with 2 days on, 3 days off, and then what that support might look like for those teams of children. And also, you know, the digital divide that exists, making sure they have the connectivity and the resources, the computers that's going to allow them to connect, because during COVID-19 stay at home, when school was in session, everybody's bandwidth dropped, you know, so you'd go in and out, in and out. And so, you know, what is the city going to do to help prevent that from happening so there can be some continuity? So basically, that's all I wanted to add, because again, for me, K-5, pre-K-5 need to be in school because they're the youngest kids. They haven't learned the independence. But those babies in particular, and I did hear Sharon say, take stock of what your classrooms would look like as administrators and how many kids could you reasonably get in a room with that 6 foot distance? And then how are you going to use your staff? Because again, I think this is going to require, I talk too much. It's going to require the use of staff very differently from how they've been used in the past. So that's basic, especially if you're going to put them on shifts. Okay, so that's it, because I've done a lot of thinking about planning.
Thank you, Beverly. So I want to reiterate kind of what we said. I just want to make sure that I'm listening to everyone correctly. So one is the need for parent training, whether it's first time using Zoom, helping do homework. So knowing at least, so in addition to parent training, but also that also allows for the load for the teacher to be taken off a little bit, right? So instead of parents asking so many questions, now they have some of that knowledge in there too that they've been trained for. The other point that I heard was, how do you balance then one, the needs of very different people, and people, I mean parents and teachers, right? There's some folks who have great understanding of technology, others who might need more help. How do you balance that and understand that even teachers are also humans who are experiencing this? The third one is recognizing that families are doing the best with what they have. But also, how do we holistically support families and teachers and children through this? And again, communication, right? So not waiting till the last minute, having a lot of reiterations, because I think that also lets families know, hey, we're thinking about all these different scenarios that might influence your decision to decide to take your child in school or take them out. So we want to be thoughtful of what this is. And obviously the digital divide, but also using staff, right? Using community resources, faith resources, any resources you have available to support families. Did I capture correctly what everybody said?
Yeah, let me add one more thing to that. I think time needs to be set aside to really talk to parents. And you can talk to them by grade level or what have you, because they're going to need a lot of support in this too. And really develop a plan to educate them on how to work with their children or to set up an environment for their children to have some ownership of the work. So I really think that parent education has to be at the forefront of this.
Great. Now, Jason just sent me a message. We have 5 minutes left. And what we have to do as a group is decide on one topic or something that we would like to share. So there were about 6 topics that we discussed here, which we could spend hours talking about. What would you like the one topic for me to share? Maybe we have 1 or 2 in case somebody also mentions that in other groups, but what topic from the ones that we discussed would you like me to share that you think it's the most important, the most vital?
I have to agree with Mrs. Beverly. I think that parent communication is key. You can't have any type of parent support. You can't provide any type of workshops or any continuation or development or plan if that parent communication isn't there, because then you're shooting in the air and you don't know if you're meeting the needs of your families. Perhaps they don't need or don't desire training. Perhaps they're looking for SEL support. Perhaps they're looking for that. I know it was mentioned in our panel, the idea of just feeling safe and welcomed in a school. They want that security. So it's the idea that before we can even reach the part of being proactive, do we truly understand and hear what our parents and our families are asking, and even what the students are asking for? And are we incorporating them into the planning before school starts, not when school has started and everyone is just on high alert and anxious?
I would say if we had to do 2, I mean, with that one being the priority, but the second one would be what Beverly stated in regards to that technology divide. So as a principal now, beginning to plan, now I'm going to plan more technology resource classes for my young kids, because now we don't know if they're going to flex in or flex out. But what I do want them to be prepared with is being able to access an iPad or a laptop with a simple password or whatever the case may be. So just getting them up to basis with technology too as well. So maybe taking away music and adding them with 2 times a week with technology, something like that. So
as your coach, I can help you with that, and you don't have to take anything away. It can be done during the instructional day.
I didn't need you to blow up my spot like that. Thanks. Appreciate it.
All right.
Getting a little jealous over here. You got a coach. I'm like, I might want to borrow your coach for a little bit. I don't know.
Keisha, do you have anything that you're thinking about? So we talked about parent communication and training, digital divide. Anything else that you think?
No, I just want to echo what everyone else said. I think it's all important. We just need to go slow to go fast, because we might miss something. And it's really important. Remember, we are public servants. So it's really about making sure that we are meeting the needs of our students and we're meeting the needs of our families, while also supporting our teachers. Apologies, I'm at school, so there's an announcement going on in the background. But and just ensuring that we're supporting our teachers. And there was something that was said about pausing, breathing, reflecting, and preparedness. And I think that's something that is really key, especially as administrators, because we want to go fast. There's so much that needs to get done. But it's so important that we allow our teachers who are on that front line to really look at their mental health and their status, because if they're not mentally healthy and prepared, then they cannot service our children. So we have to remember that while we're public servants and students and families come first, we have to make sure that our staff is prepared, and we have to make sure that they're comfortable. And that's where we really need to do that pause, breathe, reflect, and preparedness. That's all I wanted to add.
And the mouth would like to add one more piece. School is a social environment, whether we accept it or not. And we have to work with our children to teach them new social norms. And because they need to be with their peers, they need to communicate. How they do that without touching, I really believe is going to be problematic for administrators, but it needs to happen and we need to recognize it and not punish them for it.
Perfect. Thank you. So we have about 40 seconds left. I have a little timer here that Jason just sent out. I think I'm going to end by saying I wish I could just summarize everything that was talked about here, and I'm hoping other teams will also talk about this, but I will do my best to mirror what we discussed. I hope I make you guys proud. If not, please jump in and say, wait, no, this is really what I meant, but I will try my best to do that. We have about 19 seconds left and anybody wants to jump in and say anything. And I think what I'm assuming is going to happen that as soon as this hits 0 seconds, we're all going to be convening back to the entire group. Ayana's nodding her head, so I think that's going to happen.
All right, are we all back now? All the groups back, I think.
I don't know.
Yeah. Okay, Dr. Humphreys, are you on the call? Are you here?
I'm here.
Good. So I'm just going to bring everybody back, and I want to give a little introduction to Dr. Humphreys, whose reputation, precedes her. So Dr. Humphreys is going to close us out today and do a report out from the facilitators, but a little nugget about her is she's an associate professor in the UIC Department of Ed Psych and a licensed clinical psychologist. So wow, that's a little something. I don't know if people know that about you, Marisha, but there's a lot to say about her work. But one highlight that I think is important for everybody here to know is that her work really examines children's social and emotional competence and ways in which schools can really support this development. And I think, during what has occurred here lately with the civil unrest, with COVID and everything else, this is more important now than ever. So Marisha, I want to turn it over to you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much, Cynthia. Hopefully you all had really good conversations in your breakout groups. I know we did. And so I'm just going to ask for each breakout group leader to just kind of sum up for us what kind of were the main takeaways from your group. So we can start, I will start with the group I was in. So Terry, if you would like to go first, that would be great.
So, one of the things that we felt was common throughout our panel discussion was, and came to fruition in our group, was that around communication and relationships, communication to parents, relationships, not just with teachers and parents, but also teachers and students, administrators and staff, how that looks or how that will look, and the changes that we feel that we're going to need to make moving forward in the fall. The other two things that came up that were really important was keeping children safe. Was our primary concern, considering some of our school structures look really different. We had somebody in our group from a school that just has large pods, so that they have to think a little bit differently about how they approach that moving forward. And the one thing I really want to bring up that we didn't talk about on the panel, but we'd like to add, was around the racism pandemic that we're having, and really knowing that that is real for our students, that we're going to have to also think about how we plan to have those conversations, how we plan to have those conversations with our staff and equip them to have those conversations with our students. Because that is, as I think, can be as traumatizing as COVID. So really putting some thought around that. But those were the three primary things that we discussed in the breakout.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. Next breakout group leader. Who would like to go next?
I'm happy to go next.
Thank you, Stephanie.
So in building on some of what I heard Terry just talk about, we also talked about the importance of relationships and really this idea of how can we build connection, especially if we're in a virtual space, and or if we are in an early childhood classroom where we might be the first point of entry into school for families. How are we ensuring that they do feel safe and do want to return to school if in-person is an option? And so that was a big portion of our conversation, as well as the fact that, we talked a lot about how everyone is going through a really unique or different experience. So how do we make sure that instruction in whatever form it takes goes beyond just the academic, but also really supports, that social emotional piece and providing that really differentiated and differentiated support based on student experience.
Great, thank you. Next, please.
I could go.
I can.
Awesome. Go ahead. Go ahead, Saturday.
Okay, I'll go. So we also talked about parent communication. We also talked about parent training and how if we continue to train some parents or all parents, it might alleviate some of the burden that teachers might have, particularly with technology. We also talked about the digital divide and how can teachers and principals help understand or help alleviate the digital divide. We also talked about that the schools are a social place, understanding socio-emotional learning, but also that schools or teachers and principals are public servants to serve parents and families, but also not to forget about teacher mental health. That if teachers are not well, they're not going to be able to be there and support teachers and there's to support parents and their children. And how do you holistically support families using the resources that might be in your community? So perhaps community resources, faith-based organization. So really using your network to help the school and help the families and the students and teachers.
Thank you. Next.
So we pretty much discussed everything that was already mentioned.
Okay.
We went a little further in regards to thinking about the human capital inside of the school building. So when we talked about the seekers, TA, security, well, we need to really have clearly defined roles and responsibilities for those individuals in order to really best support them and provide them with the professional development they need in order to support students. So even thinking at a teacher level, thinking about, hey, how do you actually provide blended instruction? How do you provide really high quality virtual learning experiences? I know my colleague Sade, she talked about really looking at budget, really looking at those PAC funds and really figuring out how to utilize those funds to provide parents with the type of learning that they need in order to support students. And the one piece that I wasn't able to add because our time ran off, but even the students, I know we talked about the new students who are coming in, but even the students who are returning are going to be different students. So we have to accept that, and we have to plan, and we have to prepare for those students as if they're going to be new students too, because there are going to be so many changes, even with those returning students.
Exactly. Thank you so much. All right, we're right up against time, but I think we have two more facilitators that I wanted, if you could just briefly share with us.
I'll go next, Marisha, and I'll be brief. Just the first thing that our group recognized is maybe the title shouldn't have been post-COVID, but through COVID, like it's not over. Mm-hmm. And then we sort of did go into talking about the uncertainty that is so challenging for us to be the typical strategic, responsive planners that we all want to be, but we're pretty much, I'll speak for myself, pretty unglued because of the constant uncertainty. So we discussed that a bit. And then we did actually spend some time talking about just the impact of wearing masks in young children. So that really came up with us too, and thinking through all the challenges related to that.
No, that's great. Thank you. And last
Yes, it's Ty. I'm just using
Ty's
computer. And I will be succinct is actually my favorite word in the dictionary. So I will be straight to the point. Key takeaways were that we need to approach parents with compassion and empathy, considering language, culture, and life experience. And then we need to really examine the current structures that
we utilize in our schools and look at ways to apply those templates to the school closure and remote learning.
That was very succinct. Thank you. Thank you to all the breakout group leaders, and thank you for all engaging this conversation. I think, the thing that I kind of across this morning, this afternoon, is we need to realize that returning to school, whatever that looks like, hybrid, a mix, being back in school, coming back out, it's going to be bumpy for everyone, bumpy for administrators, for teachers, for families, for students. And we have to have grace. We have to have compassion. And so we need our educators to be steady, empathic, calm, and supportive, and know that there's multiple things going on. And that the bumps that we're going to experience are normal. So let's not try and point out what people aren't doing. We want to make sure we have a strengths-based perspective. And what happened at home during remote learning, our families are doing their best. And actually, it might not look the same as what's happening in schools, but our kids are still learning something. They've learned a lot during this time. They've been able to engage in ways that they haven't been able to when they have to go to school, be in activities, or have other things going on. So I think to sum it up, is we need to have a holistic approach where we're considering not just the whole child, the whole family, the whole community, and tapping into academic, social, emotional, and behavioral. So with that, I'll turn it back to Cynthia if you want to close us out.
Yeah, so for those that are remaining in the conversation, my closing out is just thank you, and let's continue the conversation. You're going to get a lot of resources from ISB, from the district, from your own colleagues, and from your own parents, and from the people in your school. Use UIC as a resource, because today was a great day where we all came together just to kind of share what we have to offer. So go and lead. And I think Marisha really gave us, the right words, with compassion and empathy as we're leading. So thank you very much. Have a good day.
Thank you all so much for putting together. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Be well, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks. Bye.
Thank you. Thank you so much. You and Brenda, thank you.
Thank you.